The certified letter arrived on a Tuesday, stamped with the City of Holloway's official seal, informing me that my home-based logistics consulting business was operating without proper municipal licensing. I'm Flynn Collins, 34 years old, and I've been running freight coordination services from my home office in Fairway Corner for 3 years. The neighborhood sits in the newer section of Holloway, New York, where the HOA maintains strict architectural guidelines and the property values reflect meticulous suburban planning. My business license had been current since day one. I kept the renewal certificates in a fireproof filing cabinet next to my desk. The letter referenced Municipal Code 14.08.120, stating that anonymous complaints had triggered a compliance review. Someone reported that commercial vehicles were making regular deliveries to my residence at 847 Maple Ridge Drive. The city demanded immediate cessation of all business activities pending a formal hearing. I pulled my license from the cabinet. Valid through December 2024. No violations, no warnings. The renewal fee had been paid electronically 6 months early. The complaint described delivery trucks arriving daily between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. It mentioned noise ordinance violations under Section 9.36.040. The anonymous tipster claimed I was operating a warehouse distribution center for my residential property. None of it was true. My logistics work involved coordinating shipments between manufacturers and retailers. Everything happened digitally. The only delivery truck that visited my house was the UPS driver dropping off my monthly office supplies, maybe Amazon twice a week. I called the city's business licensing department. The clerk, Brody Bennett, confirmed that multiple complaints had been filed over the past 2 months, all anonymous, all detailed, all describing the same fictional commercial operation. The complaints include photographs, he said, time-stamped images of commercial vehicles at your address. I requested copies under the Freedom of Information. The photos arrived 3 days later. Grainy images of delivery trucks parked in my driveway. The timestamps showed dates when I'd been out of town at logistics conferences. The license plates were partially obscured, but the vehicles looked legitimate. Someone had staged these photographs. The hearing was scheduled for the following Thursday at 2 p.m. in Conference Room B at City Hall. I had 7 days to prepare a defense against accusations that made no sense. I started documenting everything. Security camera footage from my Ring doorbell. Credit card statements proving my conference attendance. Testimonials from neighbors who could verify the absence of commercial traffic. Then I noticed something else in the complaint file. The submission forms were printed on letterhead from Fairway Corner Community Association. The anonymous tipster had used official HOA stationery to file false reports with the city. Someone with access to HOA materials was systematically targeting my business license. I needed to understand how someone gained access to HOA letterhead and why they chose to target me specifically. The Fairway Corner Community Association operated from a small office building on Maple Street. The staff included 3 full-time employees: the administrative coordinator, the maintenance supervisor, and the community pool manager. Board meetings happened monthly in the conference room, adjacent to the main office. I'd lived in the neighborhood for 4 years. My interactions with the HOA had been minimal and professional. Annual dues paid on time, no violations, no complaints filed against neighbors. I kept my property maintained according to the architectural guidelines outlined in Section 4.2 of the Community Covenants. The pool manager was Lillian Hartwell. She'd held the position for 6 years and managed all recreational facilities, including the tennis courts and playground equipment. Her office contained filing cabinets with resident information, architectural review forms, and official correspondence templates. I decided to attend the next board meeting to observe the dynamics and identify potential access points for the letterhead theft. The meeting convened at 7 p.m. on the second Tuesday of the month. 12 residents attended, including myself. The board consisted of 5 elected members who discussed budget allocations, landscaping contracts, and upcoming maintenance projects. Lillian presented the monthly pool report, chemical levels within acceptable ranges, no safety incidents, summer programming scheduled to begin Memorial Day weekend. Her presentation was thorough and professional. During the open comment period, I mentioned the fraudulent business license complaints without naming specific details. I explained that someone had used HOA letterhead to file false reports with the city. The board president, Brody Caldwell, assured me they would investigate any unauthorized use of official materials. After the meeting, I approached Lillian near the coffee station. She expressed concern about the letterhead misuse and offered to review office security procedures. Her reaction seemed genuine. No defensive behavior or unusual nervousness. I thanked her and left the building at 8:45 p.m. The next morning, I received another call from the city licensing department. A new complaint had been filed overnight. This one included additional photographs and a detailed log of alleged commercial activities spanning the previous 3 weeks. The timing was suspicious. Less than 12 hours after I'd mentioned the investigation publicly, someone had escalated their campaign against my business license. I drove to City Hall and requested to review the new complaint in person. The submission timestamp showed 11:47 p.m. the previous evening. The filing had been submitted electronically through the city's online portal using a temporary email address. The photographs were more sophisticated this time. Multiple angles of my property. Close-up shots of delivery vehicles with clearly visible license plates. The images appear to be taken with professional camera equipment rather than a smartphone. I cross-referenced the license plates with the New York DMV database through a private investigator contact I'd worked with on logistics fraud cases. The vehicles belonged to legitimate delivery companies, but none had records of deliveries to my address on the dates shown in the photographs. Someone had photographed these trucks at other locations and digitally manipulated the images to place them in my driveway. The investigation required more technical expertise than I possessed. I contacted a digital forensics specialist who analyzed the metadata embedded in the image files. The analysis revealed that the photos had been edited using Adobe Photoshop CS6. The original timestamp showed the images were captured at various commercial locations throughout HOA over the past month. The forger had been methodically collecting source material to construct their false narrative. I needed to identify who had both the technical skills to manipulate photographs and the access to submit complaints using HOA letterhead. The suspect pool was small, but I required concrete before making accusations. I installed additional security cameras around my property perimeter and began monitoring the HOA office building during evening hours. If someone was conducting surveillance to gather information for their campaign, they might return to observe my response to the escalating complaints. On Friday evening, I parked across from the HOA office at 9 p.m. and waited. The building appeared empty. Security lighting illuminated the parking lot, but no vehicles were present. At 10:15 p.m., a silver Honda Civic pulled into the lot. The driver used a key to enter through the main entrance. The interior lights activated, and I could see someone moving through the administrative area toward the back offices. I used my phone to record video of the vehicle and license plate. The person remained inside for approximately 20 minutes before exiting and driving away. The license plate belonged to Lillian Hartwell. Her presence at the office after hours wasn't necessarily suspicious. Pool managers often worked irregular schedules during summer preparation season, but the timing coincided with the pattern of complaint submissions that had been filed during evening hours. I needed more before drawing conclusions. The following Monday, I submitted a formal records request for all HOA correspondence sent to city departments over the past 6 months. The request included copies of any letters, complaints, or official communications bearing the association's letterhead. The response arrived within 5 business days. Among the legitimate correspondence was a series of letters I hadn't seen before. Complaints about various residents throughout the neighborhood. Noise violations. Architectural infractions. Parking disputes. All submitted on official letterhead, with Lillian's signature as the authorized representative. The complaints described violations that didn't exist. Residents who maintain their properties according to community standards were being falsely reported to city departments for imaginary infractions. I wasn't the only target. I contacted 3 other residents mentioned in the false reports. Each confirmed they'd received citations or warnings from city departments based on complaints they couldn't understand. None had been notified that the HOA was filing reports about their properties. Lillian had been systematically filing false complaints against multiple residents, while using her position to access personal information and official letterhead. The pattern became clear when I mapped the targeted properties on a neighborhood diagram. Every false complaint involved residents who had previously disagreed with Lillian's recommendations during board meetings or community events. She was using her administrative access to retaliate against anyone who questioned her authority. My business license had been targeted because I'd asked questions about pool maintenance costs during a budget discussion 6 months earlier. She'd been planning this campaign since then, waiting for the right opportunity to strike. The KB was overwhelming, but I needed to document her methods before confronting the situation directly. I scheduled a meeting with Officer Drew Robinson from Community Development the following Tuesday. His office occupied the 2nd floor of the municipal building on Elm Street. The walls displayed certificates from the New York State Association of Code Enforcement Officials and framed photographs of neighborhood improvement projects. Officer Robinson reviewed my documentation for 47 minutes. He examined the falsified complaints, cross-referenced them with actual property inspections, and verified the timeline of Lillian's administrative access to HOA records. This constitutes official misconduct under Municipal Code, Section 15.08, he said. Filing false reports with city departments carries administrative penalties and potential criminal charges. I provided copies of all collected over the past 3 weeks. The falsified letterhead documents. The targeted property list. The timeline showing correlation between board meeting disagreements and subsequent false complaints. Officer Robinson initiated a formal investigation that afternoon. The process required interviewing all affected residents, reviewing HOA board meeting minutes, and examining city department response protocols to determine the full scope of Lillian's actions. The investigation revealed additional violations I hadn't discovered. Lillian had been accessing resident contact information from HOA membership databases and sharing it with third-party vendors without authorization. She had also been approving pool maintenance contracts with companies that provided kickbacks to her personal account. The financial irregularities totaled $3,847 over 8 months. Small amounts that wouldn't trigger automatic audits, but significant enough to constitute embezzlement under state law. I documented everything in a detailed report for the HOA board. They included bank statements showing unauthorized payments, vendor contracts with inflated pricing, and email correspondence between Lillian and the companies receiving preferential treatment. The board scheduled an emergency meeting for Thursday evening. 7 residents attended, including the 3 others who'd been targeted by false complaints. Brody Bennett, the board treasurer, presented the financial audit results. The discrepancies were undeniable. Lillian arrived 23 minutes late. She carried a leather portfolio and wore the same professional demeanor she'd maintained throughout her tenure as pool manager. Her expression remained neutral as the leather was presented. "These allegations are completely unfounded," she said. "I've served this community faithfully for 2 years. My record speaks for itself." I presented the timeline showing how each false complaint corresponded to residents who'd questioned her decisions. The pattern was too consistent to be coincidental. Brody Bennett read the financial audit findings aloud. The unauthorized vendor payments. The inflated maintenance contracts. The personal kickbacks deposited to her account. Lillian's composure cracked when confronted with the bank statements. She claimed the payments were legitimate reimbursements for pool supplies, purchased with personal funds. The explanation didn't match the vendor invoices or the timing of the transactions. The board voted unanimously to terminate her position effective immediately. They also voted to pursue full restitution for the embezzled funds and to cooperate with the ongoing municipal investigation. Officer Robinson's investigation concluded 2 weeks later. The city filed administrative charges for filing false reports and referred the financial crimes to the district attorney's office for prosecution. Lillian pled guilty to misdemeanor charges of filing false instruments and petite larceny. The plea agreement required full restitution to the HOA, 100 hours of community service, and 2 years of probation. The business license issue was resolved within 10 days. The city expunged all citations based on Lillian's false complaints and issued formal apologies to the affected residents. I helped establish new oversight procedures for the HOA board. All future complaints to city departments would require approval from 2 board members. Financial transactions above $500 would need treasurer approval and documentation. The community pool reopened under new management in June. The replacement manager implemented transparent reporting procedures and monthly financial statements available to all residents. 3 other residents approached me for assistance with similar situations in neighboring communities. I work with mediators specializing in neighbor dispute resolution to help them document and navigate the administrative processes. The experience taught me that suburban betrayal often hides behind official procedures and community trust. People in positions of minor authority can cause significant damage when they abuse that trust for personal gain. Lillian moved out of Fairway Corner in August. The house sold quickly to a young family with 2 children who appreciated the community's renewed commitment to transparency and accountability. 12 months later, I stood in my home office, reviewing the quarterly logistics reports for 3 new distribution centers. The business had grown beyond my initial projections. The false citations and license suspension had delayed 2 major contracts, but the clients waited. They understood the situation once I explained the administrative mix-up. The new pool manager, Brody Caldwell, had transformed the facility into a model for other HOA communities. Monthly financial reports arrived via email with detailed breakdowns of every expense. The board meetings now included open discussion periods where residents could review all vendor contracts and maintenance schedules. My documentation system had helped resolve 4 similar cases in neighboring developments. I work with mediators specializing in neighbor dispute resolution to train residents on collection and administrative procedures. The Holloway Community Development Office now recommends our protocols to other HOAs facing internal disputes. The security camera network I installed captured 2 attempted break-ins over the winter. Both incidents were resolved quickly with clear video. The investment in proper surveillance equipment had proven worthwhile beyond the original investigation. Brody Bennett, my neighbor who first noticed the unusual complaint patterns, was elected to the HOA board in the spring election. His background in municipal finance brought additional oversight to the community's budget processes. The board now requires monthly reconciliation reports and annual independent audits. The young family who bought Lillian's house integrated seamlessly into the neighborhood. Their children used the pool regularly during the summer season. The transparency measures we implemented had restored community confidence in the facility management. Officer Robinson visited in September to review our new procedures for a training presentation. The Holloway Police Department was developing a community mediation program based on our documentation methods. 3 other municipalities had requested copies of our collection protocols. The business license renewal process in October proceeded without complications. The city had updated their complaint verification procedures to prevent false reporting. All future citations would require photographic and supervisor approval before issuance. I kept the original complaint files in a secure cabinet as a reminder of how quickly trust could be weaponized. The manila folders contained hundreds of pages of fabricated violations and forged documentation. The paper trail that exposed the betrayal now served as a teaching tool for other residents facing similar situations. The morning routine had returned to normal. Coffee at 6:30. Review of overnight logistics reports. Check the security cameras. Walk through the neighborhood before the workday began. The hypervigilance had faded, replaced by reasonable caution and systematic preparation. The community pool closed for the season in late September. The final financial report showed a modest surplus that would fund equipment upgrades for the following year. The contrast with the previous year's mysterious shortfalls was stark and reassuring. Winter preparations began in November. The new management company provided detailed maintenance schedules and cost projections. Every expense was documented and approved through the established oversight procedures. The transparency had become routine rather than reactive. The silence in the neighborhood felt different now. Not the tense quiet of hidden surveillance and secret investigations. Not the artificial calm of suppressed suspicions and unanswered questions. This was the earned peace of resolved conflict and restored trust. It was finally over, and the silence felt earned.